Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host, Shane Lockwood, and this is episode 41. Today is 18th of January 2015, and I want to apologise for there not being a show last week. I've got no real excuses. I did sleep pretty much the whole day, and then there was a whole heap of events that happened, and it became really political, and wow, it became really heavy, and that's not what I wanted to do with this show. I wanted it to keep it light. Even though we might talk about heavy subject matter, it needed to be still within the context of being easy like a Sunday morn. I want to thank Smiler Tyler for pulling me up and saying, "Oi, where's this week's episode?" Because I'm no longer getting the feedback that I once did. I realised that look, there are people still listening, and there are people still using the code word, but they aren't giving the thumbs up, and it becomes a difficult thing to know whether people actually enjoy the show, what they like, what they don't like, if I'm not getting the feedback. Also, clicking like, it might be a small thing to you, but what it does is actually pushes the show up in rankings and things like that, especially within the Stitcher app. So if you're using Stitcher to listen to the show, clicking like a thumbs up, adding it to your favourites, those things make a big difference. I did a show with Reggie Ragsdale. The very first show skyrocketed in the Stitcher charts. The next series of episodes that I did with Reggie also skyrocketed. After the show dropped down in the rankings in the meantime, but then they skyrocketed again. And now, because those, while the interviews are still there, but they're not current, then the ratings drop back down again, you see. And wow, so to go from, I think, 1918 in the charts for Stitcher, to go back down to like 20,000, that's a huge drop. But you can see how those sort of things can make a big difference. It doesn't make a big difference as to whether I record this or not, but it can boost my self-esteem. It can make the show a lot brighter and a lot more positive. So thank you very much, Smiler Tyler, and thank you guys for listening each and every week, using the code word that's at the end of every show, just to let me know that you've been listening the whole way through. And I'd like to thank you if you are listening to this for the very first time, to those who are listening to this through iHeartRadio, and etc. etc. I may even switch this up and add a little iHeartRadio mention at the beginning, just to keep things fresh, because I do know this, like, there are people listening to the show from iHeartRadio every single day, because I don't think there's a wide range of podcasts. Actually, I know for a fact that there's not a wide range of podcasts on iHeartRadio, so I'm glad that people are tuning in and enjoying the show. If you're enjoying the show, please let me know. You can do that through Twitter. If you have a Twitter account, it's SHAIDO. That's Shido on Twitter. Or look me up, Shane Lockwood, LOCKWOOD. You should be able to find me online fairly easily. Or just look this podcast up on Google. You will find it. There's a Facebook page, the links to everything, the contact details, and the Patreon page, etc., is all in the show notes. But that's self-promotion, and I want to get away from that. What's been going on? In the last few weeks, there were bushfires in Adelaide, in the northern suburbs. Nowhere near me, but it was close enough that I could see the smoke of some of the fires. A lot of the areas that did get burnt were mainly forest, but there were a few lost houses and a few animal shelters and things that had animals that actually lose their life due to fire and things like that. So that was pretty tragic. And towards the end of it, there was a lot, because it was really, really hot too. And we've been lucky this summer that we haven't had too much hot weather. We had one day over 40 degrees Celsius, but the next day it started to rain, a very heavy rain. So that rain helped put out the fire, but then conversely there was a lot of flooding. So it's been up and down all of last week. This week's been pretty good. The week ending this Sunday has been good weather-wise, etc., etc. So it's starting to calm down and cool down a little bit. I know in some states it's not as cool. What else is happening in the news? The Cosby count. I'm calling it the Cosby count because this is the number of people that have come out against Bill Cosby, and it's up to around 20 ladies who have accused him of drugging them and stuff like that. Now, the other twist is that Felicia Rashad, who plays his wife on The Cosby Show, came out and said that she didn't know who these women were, but she thinks that it's an attack on his legacy, because Bill Cosby did a lot of stuff that a lot of black actors couldn't do at the time, and he did a lot to counter a lot of the racism and things like that. That's why you had The Cosby Show. That's why you saw Dr. Huxtable. This is a character who was a positive black role model. This is like the family was well-to-do. They weren't stereotypical. So it was great in that sense. So I don't know who to believe or whatnot. I think the truth will come out eventually. The media has already condemned him. I don't really want to add anything to that or not. I think it's up to a judge, jury to weigh that up. But he needs to be charged with something. So because there's no charges, who knows? And he's counter-suing somebody who did make a claim against him. So I don't know. I think he dismissed a lot of the stuff until somebody became a little bit too ridiculous. But who knows? The other thing is, there was a guy named George Zimmerman who shot Trayvon Martin, and he was acquitted. Apparently, I don't know, he assaulted Trayvon Martin apparently. And he did shoot him and killed him. George Zimmerman was just a security guard, but apparently he's in trouble with the police again, and he was charged with... No, he killed Trayvon Martin, and now he's being charged with assault. So, this guy, he's constantly in trouble with the police. So, whatever you thought about the Zimmerman versus Trayvon Martin case, well, it doesn't look good. He's not exactly squeaky clean, shall we say. What else is going on? Oh my goodness. The Beagle 2, the Mars rover thing that they sent back in 2003 and was lost. They sent it to Mars. NASA sent Beagle 2 to Mars in 2003, and it hit the atmosphere and they lost the signal. Now, in 2015, they sent a thing, what do you call it, like a satellite with the camera and stuff, it does like an orbit of Mars, and on its way past it sees a couple of bright things reflecting off the surface. And it turns out to be Beagle 2, absolutely smack bang on target. It landed on target, and the satellite, the solar panels opened up, but they didn't open up completely. So basically, they ran out of power and could not send a signal. So part of me just wants to get in like a space suit and fly out there and just pick the thing up and turn it over and, you know, make sure the thing's getting sunlight and going back to do its original mission, which I have no idea what it was. But you just want to do that. But the problem is it would take 7 months to get there. 7 whole months to get there. One way to Mars. 7 months. You would need to download pretty much the entire internet. Before you left. A lot of food. A lot of oxygen. Yeah, that would be take a bit of planning for NASA to be able to send someone. And the problem is, to send somebody to Mars, it's a one-way trip. I think because of the cost involved, and we're talking billions of dollars here. But yeah, let's see. But I'm glad that they found that. That's a really cool thing. I think last show I talked about the Mariana Trench, how they found life down there. What else? I'm 12 minutes in, and I'm going to do a bit of rambling because I'm at the end of my notes for the last part, because I just threw this together. I've been playing a game called Remember Me. Now, I bought this game and another game, one of the Metal Gear Solid ones, for the Xbox 360, because Big W was having a sale, and these games were $10 each. And you have to understand that these games can retail for $100. You know, that's 50 quid, that's 80 US dollars. These things are not cheap, so $10. And I haven't looked at the Metal Gear Solid one just yet, but I started playing Remember Me, and it's an interesting game in that, first and foremost, you've got a female protagonist as opposed to a male protagonist, or having the ability to pick and choose your character. So you're forced to play with female protagonist, which is fine. I don't mind that. The graphics are fantastic, absolutely, really, really beautiful. Anyway, the plot of the game is that she wakes up in a prison cell, and her memories have been taken away. And it's part of the prison system that they take the people's memories away, so they don't have any memory of life outside the prison. So there's no need to want to escape. It's basically like a lobotomy. Anyway, this woman wakes up. She's had her memories erased, but for some reason she can remember her name, and in her head a guy's telling her how to escape. So she escapes, and you play very much like a Tomb Raider game, where you're jumping from ledges to ledges and things like that. You're running, but you're also doing like combat as well. You're fighting very much like, the combat is very much like Arkham Origins, which is a Batman game. where it's not just mashing buttons to fight and kick and block. It's very much, if you time certain attacks, you get combination moves and things like that. You get special moves and powers, and things like that. And that's really, really interesting. But my favourite part of the game, my absolute favourite part of the game, is where you get to manipulate other people's memories. And this is story driven because of the level of detail of what they've had to do. But it reminds me of what they did with Arkham Origins, where there's a few crime scenes that you can analyse, and you can reverse using the Batman's Bat computer. You can reverse the footage of a helicopter. So a helicopter crashes, and you can reverse the footage, and then you can find out where a bullet came from that hit one of the propellers that caused the helicopter to crash, and so on and so forth. So you can do that. In this game, Remember Me, you go into this woman's head because she's trying to kill you, right? So as a self-defense, you put your memory glove on the back of her head, where you have like a memory access point, and you go through, and there's a scene that plays out of a doctor who's doing a memory transplant from the woman to her husband, and every time there's like a glitch on screen, right? Because it plays through the scene, right? So you go, oh, this is the memory, and then it says every time there's a glitch, you can change the memory. So you can rewind and reverse, rewind, and fast forward to the footage, but you're looking for these little glitches, and then you can say, oh, okay, I'll move this item forward like a couple of feet, or this and that, and the goal is you have to make the memory become the story of a doctor who kills her husband, and that's just one scenario. And then there'll be several of these things throughout the game, but I've only encountered that one, and I've gotten I'm not sure, but I'd say I'm probably about halfway through the game, and that's my favourite aspect of that. You can rewind footage, and then you change something, and then the dialogue and the acting changes and follows the new storyline. So that was fairly amazing. What else is going on? This year is a year of starting over from scratch, from financially to finding employment, to sorting out what I want to do with my life, in terms of goals, in terms of careers, in terms of this podcast, etc., etc., etc. I'm at a loss, really. Last year was, without a doubt, probably the worst year of my life, with the occasional highlight, and I'm thankful for the generosity of a few people that have pretty much saved my life, up until the point where I got a rather large tax return. Most of that money was gone. I'm slowly rebuilding. Now, I wanted to buy a ticket to Chester in the UK, and I could have afforded that. I could have done that twice, 3 times even, but I didn't, and I've only got myself to blame for that. But these are the things that happen. The lady in Chester that I wanted to meet, she's going through some problems at the time, right now, so it probably wouldn't have been the best time to go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a rough goal of, say, June or July, late June. So Myla Tyler told me late June is probably the best time to go. But I'll give it a date of 6 months and see what happens. Life can have some ups and downs. A job that I had for the last 4 years, I thought that it would have been permanent, even though in that time, I think I went without shifts for an entire year. So I'm not really sure what was going on there. But what does it say about a company when 3 months after I leave, because I chose to go to university, right? That's all it was. I chose to go to university. 3 months after I left, the troublemakers leave. Isn't that funny? And later on, I saw one of the troublemakers at a coffee shop in the city. So I thought, alright, does she still work there? And from a distance, I just thought, okay, well, I can see, well, you no longer work where I was working. They saw through your nonsense pretty quick. But then 2 weeks later, family business has taken over that coffee shop, so there's no way she'd be working there again. But then 6 months after I left, my boss leaves. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about the life? So I'm looking for work again, which has caused more problems. I'd come to the end of my disability employment, whatever. So I'd gone through to another job search agency, so they triggered a job capacity assessment. And then they wanted evidence from my GP that I've got a hearing problem. Now the problem is I hadn't been to see a GP for a while, and they're claiming that there's no evidence of me having a hearing problem. Now I had to get a letter from the hearing place, but Centrelink won't accept that. It's got to be through the GP, and the medical centre is saying, well, we don't have records of you being with us, because I hadn't been with them for a while, so they must reset everything every few years or whatever. So I'll go and see another GP that I used to go and see. She goes, I haven't seen you since 2009, I can't do anything. They should have records, they've got to keep records for 7 years and all this sort of stuff. Well, they don't have records. So what do? Do I go back and see another GP? I'm not sick. I just need someone to sign a form to say, oh yes, you do have a hearing problem. Oh, this is the form you need to fill out, so the government will leave you alone. It's a nightmare. And anyway, I hope that you have drifted off to sleep, or whatever it is that you do when you listen to this podcast. It is a bit of a ramble. I know that it's boring. There was no planning. There's a whole heap of really cool stuff that happened in science. Oh, they did find a cure for cancer. I think I mentioned a while back, but they're not all cancers, obviously, but a few forms of cancer. They basically give you like a massive dose of radiation, but it has to be localized, right? It really has to be localized. It's a massive dose of radiation, and what it does is it super cooks the cancer cells in your bloodstream, for example. And the white blood cells, the thing about the cancer cells is they're normal cells that have just decided to, instead of healing and like replicating and healing like they should, like a healthy cell will replicate and heal and stop. A cancerous cell replicates and then replicates and then replicates and then replicates, and then it just doesn't stop. It's just mutated. What happens is, because it's a healthy cell that's mutated, the white blood cells and the body's natural immune systems cannot see it. So when they ultra cook it with the radiation, the natural immune system, the body's immune system, can see the cancer cells and then starts attacking it. So within a few months, like, you can be cancer free if you have this treatment. But I think there are certain details for it. Like, it's not a panacea. Doesn't cure everybody. It's only for people with a certain type of cancer, I think, like a stage 3 pancreatic cancer or something like that. I don't know. You'd have to look it up. As always, you should have Google open and fact check me whenever I'm going on. Also, I wanted to thank Adam for highlighting my mistake. Not really a mistake, it was my ignorance regarding Michigan and Detroit. Detroit is in Michigan, but the game is set at, like, the starting location of the game is in a random location in Michigan. So you don't know where you are, you're in Michigan, but you've got to find Detroit on a map and then try and figure out how to get there. But also, just hitting Detroit is not the end of the game. It's just where a lot of the surviving people are. And there's armour and stuff like that, and weapons and things that you can pick up along the way. The game I was talking about was called Neo Scavenger, and that was in the last podcast. Anyway, I realise this has been a rambling podcast. It's me just trying to fill blank air. But I'm glad that you've been listening for this long, and I think what I'll do is give you guys the contact information. If you want to contact me, it's down below. Shane_Lockwood@hotmail.com. Oh yeah, I want to thank Gaza, because he pulled me up on something I shared on Facebook. It was to do with Harvey Norman, and I don't really like Harvey Norman for various reasons, but he was misquoted in a meme, and of course I should know better, and I just shared it and went, meh. And then I went off and looked at the source, pretty much at the same time as Gaza was sort of highlighting the source of the original quote, and he wasn't as bad, as what he was saying wasn't as bad, because they just taken it out of context and whatnot. So thanks for Gaza, thanks Smaller Tyler, thanks Adam, thank you guys for tuning in this long. I realise this podcast doesn't have the content that it should have. Oh, Dre, if you are listening, this podcast is open to interviews. If you want to be on the show, just contact me anytime when I'm not busy, and we will interview each other, talk about the depression and other things that you wanted to talk about. Anyway, I've got less than 40 seconds left, and you know all the details, they're all down below. I want you guys to take today, the rest of today, and the rest of the week easy like a Sunday morn. And I'll catch you next week. Hopefully everybody's had a great week and they're back into the swing of the new year. I'm still trying to get the hang of it, and I don't think I'm doing very well. And I've got a bit of a cough too. Nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Anyway, that is all from me. Look after yourselves. Bye for now. And for those who are listening, waiting for the code word, today's code word is the word Sahara. 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 I'd hate to desert you. Anyway, that's all from me. Catch you next week.